Hey everybody, welcome back to the 80s Slashers YouTube channel. In this video, I will be discussing and reviewing the 1984 slasher Satan's Blade. We'll be taking a look at the plot of the film, the kills, the setting, the nudity. We'll take a look at the Blu-ray itself before wrapping it all up with some final thoughts. So, Satan's Blade, it's kind of an interesting film. It seems like it was actually filmed in 1980, but it wasn't released until 1984. There's actually a scene in the film. If you look closely on the wall, there's a calendar on the wall, and it actually says November 81. So I don't know. From what I've read, people seem to think it was mostly filmed in 1980, but there is November 81 on the wall. I don't know. But it was released in 84 for whatever reason. So, but it definitely feels and looks as if it's kind of one of those, late 80s or sorry, late 70s, early 80s types of film. It just has that feel, all the clothing and like the camping equipment, all this stuff that they use feels like that, the late 70s era stuff. Um, Now, all that being said, the way it looks and feels, this is definitely a low budget slasher film, without a doubt. This is I would group this within, like, when I think of films like Splatter University and Don't Go in the Woods. So if you're familiar with those films, that's kind of the grouping that I would put this in terms of budget, the level of filmmaking and the props and the effects, all that stuff. I kind of want to say this feels like it maybe had a little bit bigger budget than those two films, but probably not by much, I would say. Um, Now, fortunately, like those two films, Satan's Blade also kind of really has a charming quality to it. Uh, and for me, it's mainly due to its low budget. It's just something about these films. I don't know. They just have kind of I just am attracted to these sorts of films. So yeah, so Satan's Blade, is this like a crappy low budget slasher that just, has a little bit of charm? Or, is this one of those, so bad it's good types of slasher films? Well, we will talk about it, but before we do, let's just go ahead and discuss the plot. All right, so Satan's Blade opens up. The film starts off. We see basically a uh, what we learn is like a bank robbery, and a couple of robbers come in. They rob a bank. They kill some people, and then they take off. And they escape up to like the mountains, and they have like a cabin up in the mountains, rented or whatever. And we see that it's a couple of women actually, were the actual bank robbers. And they're at their cabin, they're happy, they're hiding the stolen money, they're waiting for someone else to show up. And then one of the bank robbers turns on the other bank robber and kills her partner. And then she's gonna get away with it, but then before she can get away with it, some unknown person kills her. And this is the setup for our killer on the loose. There's a brief at the beginning of the film, because the title of the film is Satan's Blade, and you see here, there's like a introduction of how like a murder weapon, like the blade is kind of well, it's like possessed. It's an evil weapon, and the weapon itself is causing people to become killers. And there's a little story, little bit of exposition from one of the characters telling the other characters kind of this backstory, kind of getting into the supernatural stuff. But that's basically where the opening scene with the robbers kind of ends it, and that's like the opening kill. And then we have a group of 9 people. There's two separate groups. There's like a group of four, like two couples, two married couples, and then another group of 5 young girls, and they all show up at this ski lodge together, at the same time, but they're separate groups, and they rent side by side cabins, and the the hotel owners are like, well, we had a murder here last night, talking about the robbers, and are you sure you want to stay? And there's legends of people in the woods and something in the lake and a killer, blah blah blah. And they're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. That's fine. So they rent these rooms, and they go, and some of them are up there to go fishing, some are there to go skiing, some are at the party. They're these 9 people show up, and that's basically what we follow the rest of the film. And they kind of get isolated at some point. They kind of get trapped up there, and of course the killings start to happen, and there's certain people who are going to survive, certain people who are going to be killed. And yeah, it kind of plays out at the end, and then, like, again, this little supernatural twist that they're trying. It doesn't really play a part except for the beginning and the end of the film. um and yeah, there's a reveal and killer and all that stuff. So yeah, that's basically the plot. It's nothing elaborate. It's like the big plot is like this whole, like I said, this supernatural thing that's kind of silly and kind of unnecessary, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, so right from the start of this film, like, you can see right off this is a low budget film, and it's hilarious. I wasn't sure, like, I knew this was a lower budget, but I wasn't sure what tier it was in. And it's yeah, right from the beginning, I had a big smile on my face. I was just laughing. Um, One of the opening shots shows the knife, like they're trying to set up this is like a supernatural knife, and it's like, a knife is thrown through the air, and you see it like land in like a tree, and then there's like this special effect that just the knife like glows red. It's such a cheesy, corny effect, but it's hilarious. And like, maybe back in 1980 or 81, whenever this was filmed, it was cutting edge, but it's so funny. And then when we cut to, when we cut to like the bank robbery scene, when the car pulls up, it's just some building, and honestly, they put like two wooden posts in the ground, and like it looked like a piece of poster board, and it just said like First National Bank written in like marker. It looked like it. That was what they that was how they made the bank sign. It literally looked like a high school student did it. It's hilarious. It's just one of these special effects that or props, I guess. It's so funny. So yeah, that was what I was introduced to, like, within like the first 5 minutes of this film. And like I said, I just had a smile right away, because I just love these style of low budget slashers where it's like a group effort. The director, the editor, they're all probably the same people, group of friends, and they get their girlfriends and wives and husbands to help. It just had that feel to it, and it was great. I just loved it. Um, yeah. Anyway, and then and then we get into the acting. So overall, the acting, as you would expect, is pretty poor. It's not terrible. Films like I said, Don't Go in the Woods, the acting in that is terrible, like almost hard to watch. This isn't hard to watch, but they're not good actors. There's a couple who were, fairly decent, that they didn't seem super forced, but nobody was a good actor. But what really stood out was the dialogue. The dialogue that these actors were given, the lines that they were asked to read and speak were, uh, at times they were, it was pretty cheesy. They're really cheesy, some of these lines, pretty forced, trying to fit certain, like lines of exposition in here just to move the story along. Yeah, and honestly, they didn't come off as too natural. It's not how people talk, and it's not conversations back and forth. It's not usually how people talk. So it was, yeah, it was unnatural and cheesy. But again, it was like a charm to it, because it wasn't terrible. Like, they weren't terrible actors, but you know, their mediocre acting with this dialogue, it was kind of fun. And like I said, sometimes it was okay. You didn't notice it, but there was a few moments that stood out that I was just like kind of cringeworthy. Which again, it's kind of fun. But like I said, it's not a negative. I'm not saying that that's a negative. It's just something to be pointed out, and it's charming. I don't know. Some of these actors, again, were probably the director's friends or something like that, and it's just that's the feel, and I think they did a good job for, I'm sure what experience they had. Now some other charming bits that I need to mention about this that all relate to like the low budgetness of the film. There was, I think, five, maybe six times throughout the film that like a boom mic was shown in shot. Like, like like this is the scene and you'd see it and then you'd see like let me see if I can, like the boom mic was like sitting down like this at the top of the screen. For like someone was having a conversation and you just saw the mic. And there was another time it was like over here. Where is it? There was another time it was like the mic was like sitting right at the edge of the screen, just like this. So funny, and it was like five or six times, and I love that. It's just again, it just gives me a big smile, and it's great. So, that's what you can expect in this film. I don't think they had top-notch skills what they were doing, but they were having fun. I think making the film. Another thing that I loved was the score. Um, Honestly, I think the score for this film was some dude who was doing, a mediocre job on a keyboard. He was doing keyboard sounds, he was doing some synthesizer sounds, a little bit of organ. He was turning into strings. You know how you can get your keyboard to play some string effects. That's what it was. It was some dude on a keyboard, and like again, it wasn't terrible. It was mediocre. I think I could have done it, to be honest, but it was good. It was fun. It fit everything else within the film. So yeah, I liked it. It's super charming. Um, don't Go in the Woods, same thing. Just some guy playing with a percussion set. I think he had like a bell and a drum and some cowbell, and it's great, man. It just adds to it. Just really, these things just add to the viewing experience for me. Like if you're a fan of this style of film, um, yeah, it was great. The one thing that I have to say that I didn't like was the pacing. The opening was fun, like the robbery and all that stuff. You got some kills, there was some nudity that opened the film, so in the silly charmingness of it all. Um, but then it really slowed down once like the nine people, um, got to the cabins and the ski lodge. Um, it really slowed down because they you had these nine characters and they tried to get some character development going, and it probably wasn't necessary. We don't care about these nine people. You could have focused on two or three, but they tried to give as much to these nine people as they could, and it really bogs down the middle of the film, unfortunately. um and yeah, I don't know. It's just it was too bad. Like it wasn't terrible. Like this is like a 82-minute film, so it's not like it's probably like 35 minutes of character development or whatever it was. It wasn't too bad, but it was noticeable for me. Fortunately, it does pick up near the end, and the conclusion is pretty fun. It kind of makes for a fun conclusion, and again, when you have character development, it kind of, like I said, it kind of is a slog to get through, but by the end of the film, you kind of know the characters, so it does kind of work, and you kind of care a little bit for some of them. So yeah, you take and you give, I guess, with this the pacing, I guess. Um, Now the ending of the film, like the twist, the reveal, it was all right. Nothing, nothing mind blowing. I wasn't like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Like I didn't guess it. I didn't guess who the killer, all that stuff was. But I was like, okay, like it wasn't like they didn't trick me. I guess it was just like, okay, it works. The story works fine. It was all right. Again, like I said, they tried to go with a supernatural explanation. Um, like the beginning of the film, I talked about like the glowing red knife. They didn't explain it. They just showed this knife glowing. I'm like, okay. So I didn't really know that it was going to be supernatural. And then you got the little dialogue in the middle of someone explaining the history and like, oh, this killer happened, this killing happened a year ago, blah blah blah. And they try to play up the supernatural, like, myth, the legend of this area. And then the end, same thing. They kind of throw it in, and the killer kind of has that supernatural motive, I guess. So I don't know. I don't think it was necessary. They didn't. I don't think they needed to do that. But luckily, it wasn't heavy-handed. Like I said, it was really light. Like I don't think I classify this as a supernatural slasher. They tried to make it, but it's just again the beginning and the end, and everything else is just a straight up slasher. So it didn't feel like a supernatural slasher. It's just they were trying to insert it for some reason. Um, I don't know. So yeah. Now the last thing I'll say, last couple things I'll say about this is uh there was at times, especially near the end of the film, there was some pretty decent tension in some of the kills and some of the scenes, which was good, Like it wasn't like, edge of your seat type stuff, but there was they did create a little bit of tension near the end, which is always nice in one of these films. You add the actual horror element. When a low budget film like this, like the charmingness, the silliness of it, that's always going to be here in these types of films. But if you can sneak in a little bit of tension, it adds something. Like I said, to like the actual horror of it, which I always appreciate. So that's good. Now I have to mention. This film had some really cool moments in like shots, um, pretty consistently throughout the film. It really surprised me because, like I said, like within the first 5 minutes, you're laughing at like boom mics in the scene and like the acting, and it's like it's really low budget and it's really amateurish almost. Um, but there was someone on set really had an eye for like framing shots and like, kind of like photography skills, the way the camera was pointed and the use of like shadows and the lighting and whatnot. And there was just quite a few like highlight moments, and I was just like, it wasn't all the time, but every once in a while, like a shot would pop up, and you're like, wow, that's really nice. That was filmed really nice. And it's something that I kind of noticed. It happened consistently throughout the film, so I think I should just mention that because yeah, like there was some skill here mixed in with their amateurish filmmaking skills, I guess. I don't know, it's weird, but yeah, there was some really cool shots and moments. So yeah, I thought I'd point that out. But yeah, overall, I liked Satan's Blade. It's definitely one of those fun, charming, low budget slashers, but it feels like it's kind of punching above its weight a little bit, if that makes sense. So yeah, this was fun. It was a good film. I definitely enjoyed it. All right, let's move on and let's talk about the setting. All right, so Satan's Blade. This was filmed in California, up in the mountains. I'm guessing in winter because there was the snow up in the mountains, or near winter anyway. Yeah, this is kind of it kind of has a cool setting. The the exterior shots, like I said, are up in like these wooded, snowy mountain location, and it looooks great. Like it looks really good. It seemed like most of it was filmed at either like dawn or at dusk. It kind of had like there was no bright light. It wasn't. There was like some dark scenes, but a lot of it seemed like it was like that. Dusk dawn. It had like a I don't know, like a subdued light look to it, and I liked it. It looked pretty interesting. Um, I would say that the overall setting definitely had a fairly decent sense of isolation, as if, once they're up here and they kind of got trapped, there was no one around to help these people. Like they're running through the mountains in the snow. And that again, that kind of added, like I said, to some of the tension. Like there's some like a chase scene at the end here. It definitely added that the isolation added to the tension. So that's that's always nice. I like that. Um, As for the interiors, like I said, basically it mostly consisted of it started off in like a ski lodge, which was really cool, but we didn't really go back to that much. Most of it was in like two identical cabins. Once they checked into the lodge, these two groups went to like their cabins, and they were identical. Like the layout, the furniture is probably the same. It was probably the same room, but they played it like it was two different ones. And it was okay. Like they had kind of a rustic look. The ski lodge itself definitely had a rustic look, but the cabins were, I don't know, they weren't anything special. It just looked like a little apartment with a living room, a kitchen, and a couple bedrooms and a bathroom. Just, you know, early 80s decor. Yeah, nothing special, nothing terrible either. Just kind of, it was what it was. That's a lot of the film actually took place in those, inside those cabins. But yeah, overall, I don't know. This is a fine setting. It definitely, the exterior shots are definitely the highlight. Especially near the end of the film when there's some chase, they're running through the woods in the snow, and there were some good moments, like I said, captured in some of like the nature shots and stuff. Definitely the highlight. Like I said, the interior cabin, it it was okay, nothing special there. So yeah, in terms of setting, not too bad, not too bad. All right, let's move on and talk about the kills. All right, so Satan's Blade has a total of 15 kills, which that's a huge number, but there is kind of a caveat to that. 15 is not really accurate because there's like a dream sequence, and you see some people get killed in the dream sequence, and then you go back. So technically, a few of these people get killed twice. You see them get killed in the dream, and then whether they get killed in the actual movie or not. So 15 people didn't die, but there was actually 15 kill sequences throughout the film, if that makes sense. So I don't know, but yeah, 50. You saw 15 different kills. It was good. It was a lot, and it's kind of surprising because, like I mentioned earlier, like, because of the pacing, there's like some killing at the beginning, at the end. It seemed like the whole middle was pretty dry. So I guess there was it was definitely conclusion heavy. A lot of these kills. It didn't seem equally spread throughout. But yeah, I don't know. That's a lot. 15 is what I counted. So now, as for the kills themselves, I found them surprisingly effective in this film. Not so much because of the practical effects, because honestly, those weren't super great. But it was the way that some of these kills were filmed. Um, a lot of them, just the way they were shot, and they seemed really like graphic and like violent and realistic at times. Um, so the first at the beginning of the film, there's actually the first three kills were actually gunshot kills. And you're like, okay, well, gunshots in a slasher doesn't really fit you. That's not usually what we're looking for. But these gunshot kills, they felt uh they felt pretty real. They felt, you would see someone get shot, and the person would look down at their stomach, and they'd like a look of shock on their face, and the blood would be dripping out, and they'd like hold their wound, and they would collapse, and they would like convulse, and it was long. You'd see this person like bleed out, die kind of, and they get shot a couple of times, and it just had like it was clearly fake blood and fake effects, but they kind of did a good job of witnessing someone getting shot, kind of, if that makes sense. It was realistic. I don't know. It just had like a violent sense to it. Um, so yeah, those were pretty good actually for gunshot wounds in a slasher film. But the highlight for sure is like the stabbings, and there were quite a few stabbings. I don't mean just someone just getting stabbed. Like we're talking like victim on the ground, and the killer just like over and over and over again, and the screaming and the blood. Like I said, you don't see a lot of the like the blade penetration effect. You don't see a lot of that. You just mostly see like like the hand going up and then the blade disappearing from a body blocking. You can't really see it, you know. But there's a couple again really cool shots with shadows on the wall. It was like filmed really nice. There was one kill that was like that. Another one on a stairwell where you kind of like the camera's at the bottom of the stairs, and the killer is stabbing someone at the top of the stairs, and you can't see the victim, but you can see like the killer's back as he's going. It just like I said, some of these the way they were filmed, they looked really cool, but they were violent, like the aggression and the anger and just like the number of stabbings. It was brutal. I was like, wow. So they just had like a tone to some of these kills that were they were really good. I don't know. I liked them. Now there were some practical effects. Like again, mostly blood effects, but there was some like there was a couple of throat slits where they did a little bit with with the open wound on the throat and whatnot. Um, but for the most part, they were the special effects were just okay. Some of them got a little cheesy. The blood is really syrupy looking. But if you can get past that, I like the kills. Especially like for the budget. I think that they did a really good job because I don't think there's probably no money set aside for practical effects and whatnot. So they did a really good job, I think. So yeah, overall, I was very pleased with the kills in Satan's Blood. Like I said, just because they seemed like kind of real, kind of brutal and violent. Not all of them, but there was probably like three, four, five of these kills that they had a I don't know they had a good tone to them. So definitely some highlight kills for sure. All right, let's move on and talk about the nudity. All right, so Satan's Blade has a total of three nude scenes, and almost right from the beginning, we get one starts off not right away, but like within the first like I don't know 3 4 minutes, and it's I feel like it was put in there obviously as like the gratuitous scene. There's a girl, she takes her shirt off and she's walking around for quite a long time. You see her, she's just sitting there. The camera zooms in, zooms out. She turns around, walks out. She's just topless for a few minutes. It's just being nude for the sake of being nude. Like just she was just a total gratuitous scene. She didn't need to be nude for what was happening at the time, but she was. So um, but then after that, it seems like it's quite a while. Again, like the whole film kind of slows down. Um, like I said, we get two more scenes. The other two scenes are not long and gratuitous, but they're there. We get like there's like a sex scene, but there's no nudity, but there's like some titillation thrown in there. There's a lot of women in this film. There's like what five? There's seven, seven of the nine people are women, and they're running around in their like lingerie and their underwear kind of thing. You don't really see much. A lot of it's sheer. You can see through kind of. There's a lot of that. Yeah, there's a sex scene that has some titillation, no nudity. There's a shower scene, is one of the nude scenes, and then there's one girl who gets killed, and she's topless. I don't know if she started the scene topless or her shirt got tore off, but I think she actually gets stabbed in the chest, so she's like holding her breasts, bleeding from her breasts, naked as she's dying. So it's yeah, it's good. There's enough nudity in here. If that's one of your priorities for this film, I think there's enough in here. Will keep most people satisfied if that's what you're looking for. So, yeah, in terms of nudity, three nude scenes, plenty, I think. All right, let's move on and we'll take a look at the Blu-ray. All right, so what we have here, like I said, this is from Slasher Video. It's actually all of Films, so I don't know what their relationship is, but when the opening credits, it says all of Films. It doesn't say Slasher Video at all, so I don't know. I'm not sure what the relationship there is, but yeah, they also put out Killer Workout on Blu-ray, which is really cool. So yeah, the Blu-ray itself, this looks really good. Is this? I just want to see if it's it doesn't say if it is 35. Okay, 35. I wasn't sure if it was 16 or 35 because it could have been there, but it looks clean. It's really good. It looks really crisp, especially the exterior scenes. A lot of them are the resolution is really crisp and bright. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's gonna look much better than this. There is an Arrow Blu-ray. Maybe they have a better maybe there is a better version, but this looks really good. There is some print damage. Again, it's there's not a lot of it, but there's I don't know, two, three, maybe four scenes throughout the movie where like a certain scene you see like the vertical banding kind of thing. It doesn't last long. It's like there's a couple scenes that are pretty clunky, a lot of damage, and it goes away pretty quick. So nothing that's distracting, nothing that bad. So in terms of video quality, yeah, this looks great. I think this is out of print. Um, I'm not sure. In region B, you can get like the Arrow video, which has a I like the cover art on that one better, but yeah, I don't know if you can find this on eBay or something. I'm not sure. Um, Audio quality is a little thin. It's not bad. It's thin. Like it's just probably the microphones, the boom mics that you saw in the shot. It's just it can be a little tinny, but it's clear. It's always clear. It's not there's no muddy sound. Everything you can hear all the dialogue. It's a little thin. It's not gonna impress anyone with its audio quality, but yeah, it's okay. So basically, yeah, you get the case here. Just a single Blu-ray, not a reversible cover or anything like that. So nothing fancy, but it's a nice solid case. Really good packaging. Special features, like I said, you get the new 2K transfer. It says from the original 35 mil. You get a director's narrative or commentary track with the director. This is like a director's interview. It's about 16 minutes long. Photo gallery, scrapbook, and there's like Dutch home video scene, Japanese home video scene, trailer, and two fan trailers. So decent special effects. So yeah, definitely a good package. Like I said, I don't know how easy this is. I got this in a trade. Like I talked about it in my vacation pickup video. So I picked this up in a trade, but so I don't know how easy or hard this is to come by. I haven't looked it up, but I don't think it's super easy to come by. But if you're in outside North America, I think the Arrow video one is easier to grab, so you might want to grab that one. All right, let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. So yeah, I really liked Satan's Blade. Like I said, this isn't a slasher that can compete with some of the bigger budget titles. It's just that not that type of film. That's not what was made here. That wasn't the attempt. This is um this feels like just a group of friends that made like a slasher film, but there's some skill here, and um there's like a desire to do a good job. I feel like they weren't mailing it in. Like they really wanted to make a good film with their limited budget, and I think they succeeded with the budget they probably had to work with. But yeah, for that type of film, I think it's really fun. Again, this is definitely a lower budget slasher, but in some ways it doesn't always feel that way. Unless of course there's like a a microphone sticking in the shot. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna like I want to lump this together with like the Splatter University and the Don't Go in the Woods, that those types of films. But Satan's Blade feels like it's a tier above those films. And like I said, I think it's mostly due to some really fun camera work at times, some neat moments that kind of makes it stand above those films. And like I said, it just felt like it was trying harder than them. There was some comedy and some silliness in those films. This one, I don't feel like it was intentionally going for that. They were trying to make a serious horror film, and they just there's limitations with what the budget was. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Like this, like I said, this has an all right setting. The plot is serviceable. The conclusion's pretty good. It's not too bad. It has all the mandatory nudity that you expect from this genre, and the kills are pretty graphic and violent. They feel they felt like uh, kind of realistic, and it just I really enjoyed some of the kills in this film. Like they're not all like that, but there's a handful of kills in here that I really like, just the look and the tone and the feel of them. So yeah, if you're someone who can look past the shortcomings of some of these lower budget slasher films, I think there's plenty here to enjoy, and I definitely recommend it for for those who think you might enjoy that. All right, that's it. That's my thoughts and review on 1984's Satan's Blade. So yeah, thanks for sticking around and watching this, and until next time. All right, see ya.